Okay, so the situation I'm going to talk about today is just kind of involving a new relationship in my life. I have been a single mom for 4.5 years. This wasn't by my choice, but it's what life threw at me and it happened. And so when I first got divorced, my kids were 7 and 3. And it was very, in some ways, I think it was a lot harder for me to adjust to that change than it was for my kids. I mean, they had their own things, but they adapted and adjusted. I mean, they weren't exposed to a lot of fighting or arguments, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not minimizing the adjustment they had to go through at all, but um, it took me a very long time to just accept being a single mom. I felt judged, a lot of judgment. Um, and in reality, I don't think anybody in my life judged me at all for that. I think it was a lot of self-placed judgment that I put on myself. So with that, it's just kind of a piece that kicks into all of this, because with that, it took a lot in me to just accept being a single mom, push forward, be okay. My kids and I are really close. We do movie nights and game nights. We call them pajama movies because during the winter, everyone's in your pajamas, you're snuggling up. So, just a lot of those, like, we just are very close to each other. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago I started to dip into the world of dating again. And I met somebody and it was good, but his divorce was too fresh. And so, I mean, we called it quits mutually. I mean, good guy still. And then come back to this winter and he reached out again. And so we've been dating and it's very serious. We both can see that this is headed towards eventually us getting married. And he has a 10-year-old daughter. I have my 11-year-old daughter and then my 7-year-old son. And you would think the girls being that close in age, great, but they get along good overall. But at the beginning, there was a lot of tension. My daughter is definitely in preteen mode, all that typical stuff. Like, she is not in kid mode anymore at all. Whereas his daughter can totally be in kid mode, the make believe, the dancing around, spinning and stuff. Like, so, I mean, they're just very different kids. Not good or bad at all, but at times, you could feel the tension in how they were unable to kind of relate to each other at times. So at the beginning, there's just a lot of tension in trying to move from just him and I seeing each other whenever the kids were gone, and away from the kids, to when we started to more integrate and blend our time together with all of the kids, all of us. And it's a hard balancing act between trying to have time for our relationship, time for just our kids, but yet time for all of them to be together so we can work on that blending and keep moving forward. And one of the things that's just really hard to balance is, like, if there's a conflict between the kids, and in the times it's happened, it's been between my daughter and his daughter. And it just brings up a lot of things, like, how do you balance that conflict out without, I think we're both extra aware of not taking our kid's side just because it's our kid, but then at the same time, it's hard you don't want to side with the other kid too, just because you are trying so hard not to show that favoritism or something. So it's just been a balancing act with that. And then one of the things that I kind of have struggled with is knowing the direction this is going. I love our time when we're all together. I love when he's over here with my kids. But, like, I really also love that time alone with my kids still. And I try to build that in and get it still. So one of my struggles is just knowing that eventually we're going to get married. And that dynamic for me and my kids totally shifts. Some of those just little things that have always, for the last 4.5 years, have been just us three, as happy as it is and as great as it is, adding another person in, it shifts those dynamics. And so that's just, it's like bittersweet trying to think about that shift in the dynamics and the roles. And so that's just been something that's been going on lately.
Yeah, so it sounds like mostly what you're struggling with is the relationship and how you balance it between your children, your new relationship, and even the relationship with his kids, just how you balance them all together and make everyone feel like they are equal to you.
Very much so. And then add in a different dynamic. I've never met his ex, but she hates me for the sheer fact that I'm here and I exist and I'm dating him. Um,
Yeah.
so you add that in, and I know there's times when I kind of hold back from some things with his daughter, like, I don't know, just those typical things that you do with a little girl, like whether it's painting nails or doing hair. I can tell I kind of hold back from those things because I know there's his ex that says, in my opinion, very inappropriate things to their daughter about hating me and makes it very known to her. Has even told her, that's not your mom. Well, we all know that. I'm not in any way acting like that. So I think that even adds to it some too, that I think he's kind of been able to form a closer relationship with my kids, and possibly I have with her, just because like I'm trying not to rock the boat anymore.
Yeah.
Is by, I don't know, by keep forming that relationship, but I know it has to happen because that's good for her too. So
Yeah, I mean, it's totally hard to build a relationship when you feel like you have to hold back because someone else is going to feel like you're encroaching on a relationship when the relationship that you may have is completely benign. It's your own personal relationship that has nothing to do with the other person.
yeah, it definitely is. And she's just always there in the background. And I know that's another dynamic of all of this remarriage, blended families having to, I guess, deal with.
Yeah.
The exes being around, and our exes are at very different levels. My ex gets the kids his every other weekend, but he doesn't call them during the week. He's pretty much just totally off the charts until it's time for his weekend again, whereas his ex still asks him for money and I'm having car trouble, so it's very different levels of boundaries that are
Yeah.
there.
And without those strong boundaries, I mean, it can be difficult to know where you're standing when you feel like the other boundaries are kind of blurred.
Yes, it can be at times. So it's also important to keep her stuff out of our relationship the best we can. And so at the beginning, it was kind of more hard. But then I guess as our relationship became more secure, and stable and just kept building and we know where it's going, then it's made it easier to just kind of block out the noise that she wants to create. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult when you're making new traditions for your family and trying to feel out how your family unit works when you have outside influences on it or even tension within the family union.
yes, very much so. Well, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you did a very good job. You listened and you responded to picking up on, that role change, the dynamics in the family and how they can be impacted by all these various things. So you did a good job picking up on that and reflecting that back.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like you said, it's hard when you're trying to like keep yourself out of it because, since this is something that's also very personal to me, being on the other side of that boat, being the child that went through the divorce and the
Okay.
remarriage and the blended family, it makes it definitely hard not be like, oh yeah, I feel you, sister, I was there.
It is.
Evil exes, I know all about it. No.
Well, and I mean, it's in reality, I'm sure too, because I'm sure there's going to be times we have clients where we can not just empathize with them, but totally understand them, because maybe we've had a situation, like you said, that is like so close to what they're talking about that you have to be aware and keep the professional, like helping part there, but not the not overstepping into like relating more like friends or something. So that way you lose
Exactly.
that ability to help.
When it's like that worksheet she gave us between the friendship and like the therapeutic
Oh,
relationship,
yeah.
and like how many of those things crossed over, but it's like, okay, well, that's where your boundaries come in. Like, yes, these both take place, but then like this is the line that like, okay, friend, relationship, yeah, can't go there.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. And I have felt that in some of my work relationships I have right now. Like there's a family, single mom went through dating somebody, the kid's struggling with having her date and have them around. And it is hard to like not
distance
relate.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, to be distant and only like self-disclose when it's appropriate for them and
Yeah.
not turn it into a chat session with your friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the challenges that I have had lately is I've been a single mom for 4.5 years, and with that change, my kids and I just became very close. I mean, it was the three of us on our own for 4.5 years. So we kind of developed our own little rituals or game nights, movie nights, just those routines that we developed just on our own as we adjusted to being just the three of us on our own. Um, and then in January, I started dating someone, and it's really progressed to be a really good relationship. And we both can see that eventually that will lead to us getting remarried. And he has a 10-year-old daughter, and my daughter is 11, and my son is 7. So his daughter is kind of right in the middle. But it's just been as good as it is with him and as great as it is and as happy as we both are. It comes with its own set of challenges. One, dating as a mom brings its own struggles to just lack of time for that relationship at times. Weird going between being who I am in a relationship with him to then shifting into mom mode when the kids are around, and it's just all of that um, is hard to balance at times. And then if you add in if the girls have a little conflict, it's not just their conflict, but it's also him and I learning how to work through that with the girls without it coming across like we are favoriting our kid or the other kid. Um, so it's just kind of been interesting. And then mixed in with that is wondering about, I just think about, in some ways, it'll be like a loss for me. As much great as it'll be to add them into our family, I'm also losing some stuff with my kids in doing that. And that just brings a little bit of sadness to me.
Okay. Yeah, it definitely sounds like you're mourning some of the loss of the closeness that you had in your family before, while also celebrating the new kind of unit that you're developing.
Yes,
Uh,
very, very much so. Feeling, yeah, torn or feeling, not even torn, but feeling those both at the same time. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, the whole new dynamics between being just you and your two children, him and his two children, and now you being a single unit, also trying to keep the identity of the original units is kind of challenging, also.
It is very challenging, yes. And to be sure all the kids are okay, plus we're okay. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely challenging at times.
Yeah, and you're feeling that pull of like, okay, I don't want to take sides with my children, but I also don't want to feel like my children feel like I'm going against them by when I take his side.
Exactly, yes. That does come up from time to time, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, there's definitely a lot of challenges involved when you have new families that are blending together, and I can completely feel for that situation. I mean, it's tough anytime that you add new dynamics, new traditions, and new focuses into your life.
Yes, it is. It is hard because my daughter and his daughter, even though they're only a year apart, it's challenging because his daughter is very much still in kid mode and just doing a lot of make believe play and imaginary stuff. I mean, nothing's wrong with that at all, but like she'll still talk about unicorns and make believe things like that. Whereas my daughter is 11 and a half, but she is very much in preteen mode. Like, she's not going to do the imaginary stuff or dance around spinning like a ballerina. Nothing's wrong with either of them, but it just,
Yeah.
it at times that interaction and mixing of families is kind of tough because they're very different. So then it kind of comes out, especially when like the kids are trying to find something to do or play, and
Yeah.
there's just kind of this silence when she might suggest playing a make-believe game and my daughter's just like, no. So
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you're wanting to like create this unit and you want your children to be friendly with each other too, and if maybe not be like best friends, but at least friendly with each other. And when that's
yeah,
not necessarily happening, it kind of adds a strain on everything else.
it does. It has helped that I think my daughter has kind of as they've spent more and more time around each other, I think my daughter's just kind of accepted, that's how she is. So now it doesn't seem to be highlighted as such a difference between them because
Hmm.
my daughter's just used to it now.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it definitely created a big pause for him and I too. Like, okay, how do we handle this? Who's gonna handle this? Like, are and some of our approaches are a little different. I mean, him and I talk really good about things, but I mean, it's still that each of our kids have been used to the way we handle things with them. So then adding that other adult in is tricky too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you each have your own discipline style, and so when you start disciplining your children or his children, or how do you keep it fair when your kids may see, well, he's not as tough on her, or you're not as tough on your kids as he is on his daughter, and then kind of throws things out of whack.
Yes, it does at times. And then, yep, just have to work through that.
Okay.